Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar. This week we're going to be going over using Maptitude for purposes specifically for those of you coming from MapPoint. So we'll go over things like radius exports, we'll go over labeling points, importing a spreadsheet, drive time rings, and a lot more stuff as well. If you have any questions at any point during this webinar, feel free to type those into the questions box on the GoToWebinar toolbar, and we can answer all the questions at the end. Dedicate the first 20 or so minutes to the instructional portion of this webinar, and the last 10 minutes or so for a question and answer. But if you have questions, feel free to enter them at any time. We will answer them all at the end. Tomorrow around 12:30 Eastern time, you'll receive a link to the recording of this webinar. So you'll have that for review. And I believe that is about it. So we can get started. Prior to choosing anything in my Maptitude window here, I'm going to display a poll, which is going to ask if you'd like to map your own data. Okay, so I'm going to be mapping a spreadsheet of data in this webinar. So I'm going to choose new map of my data table or spreadsheet, and I'm going to browse for that spreadsheet. So I have mine saved in my training folder, and it is a list of botanical gardens near Chicago. So I'll choose this sheet. I'll hit OK. The first step is to match up any geographic fields from the spreadsheet. So things like my address field, a city field, state field, anything like that, with their respective geography here. So I want to make sure that my field called address matches up with address, and my field called city matches up with city, etc. These all match up, so we're good to hit next. I'm going to be locating records by address, zip code, or city. This will give me an individual push pin for each record in my spreadsheet. This next step is pretty similar to the one in MapPoint. So if you choose to link your data on this step, then if you make changes to the spreadsheet later and you refresh the map, it will update with the changes you've made. I'm not changing this spreadsheet at all during this webinar, so I'll just hit import. And finally, you can choose a type of theme, and you can add labels if you want. I'm going to leave the theme on none, but I will be displaying labels, and I'll label each location with the name of the location. And I don't need any types of analysis for this, so I can hit finish. Okay, so here is a list, or here are all my individual locations, and these are all botanical gardens. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the display manager. This controls what's currently showing or hidden on the map. So we have my botanical gardens layer. I'm going to right-click on this layer and just choose rename, and I'm going to call it gardens. There we go. And next, I'm going to zoom into Chicago. That way we have a bit smaller area to look at. So the next poll I'm going to display is going to ask if you would like to customize the appearance of your data. So if you'd like to customize the appearance of your data, find the layer in your display manager that you want to customize. So in this case, my gardens layer, and click on the respective style next to it. So in this case, that's a blue point. I can scroll through the list of point icons to find one that I like. I will pick a flower in this example because I have a spreadsheet of gardens. And I'll change the color to green. So there we go. It's updated all those point icons and it's reflected on the map. The next poll I'm going to display is going to ask if you would like to extract data by drawing a shape on the map. So this could be a freehand shape like a rectangle or polygon, or this could be a circle, so radius export. So when doing either a radius or a polygon export, the first step is going to be to pick from the drawing toolbar what kind of shape you want to make. So if I want to do a polygon export, I can choose freehand shape. I can click once to start drawing my shape. You'll see I now have a dotted line following my mouse. Click again to add a corner. Continue clicking to add more corners. And once we've boxed in the area that we want to export, double click and right click anywhere inside the shape and just choose Export to Excel. So this is going to give us a brief report on the area. It's going to show us cities and towns in this area, any of my botanical gardens that were in this area, as well as a census overlay for this area. We can use the freehand radius tool to do a similar thing. So if we choose freehand radius on the drawing toolbar, we can click where we want the center of the circle to be, and then enter a number of a specific type of unit. So let's do 10 miles. And then right click anywhere inside the circle and choose Export to Excel. So once again, we have cities and towns, gardens, and a census overlay. There's a nice addition as well when we use a circle. So we have a couple extra fields, which are the straight line distance to the center, and mine are in kilometers, but yours, if you're using US Maptitude, most likely see this in miles, as well as the travel time to the center of the circle from each point. And again, we have the census overlay like before. And to delete any of these shapes, just right click on them and choose delete. So assuming people would like to see them, next up we'll be going over drive time rings. So I'm going to display a poll which is going to ask if you'd like to create drive time rings. So to create drive time rings, we're going to open up the drive time rings toolbox. And you can find that up here on the standard toolbar. It looks like a circle with a small car next to it. The button on the far left allows us to click locations where we want the center of the drive time rings to be. So I'll choose click locations, and then I'll just click in the center of Chicago. I can enter a number of rings and a number of minutes per ring. So let's do 3 rings of 5 minutes each. This will do 3 concentric rings, one from 0 to 5 minutes, one from 5 to 10 minutes, and one from 10 to 15 minutes. And it's going to plot that on the map. So our red ring here is from 0 to 5 minutes. Our orange ring is from 5 to 10 minutes. And our purple ring is from 10 to 15 minutes. And if we want to see an export of the botanical gardens and census information in this area, we can right-click on the drive time rings layer, choose Make Working Layer, and then click on Export to Excel. So we don't have any botanical gardens in this ring, but we do see a census report on the area. So 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, and it shows census information for each of these areas. Finally, if we want to delete a layer, in this case the drive time rings layer, we can just right-click on it and choose Remove. So next up, assuming people would like to see it, I'm going to go over the territories wizard briefly. So I'm going to pose a question, which is, will you like to use Maptitude to create territories? So to add territories to this map, we're going to choose from the map menu, New Territory Layer. And this is going to add a new layer to our workspace, and it's going to add that to the Display Manager, and it's going to be the territories layer. So we have a few different options here. If you're creating the territories by clicking on individual zip codes or counties and starting from scratch, you'll want to choose interactively here. So the first option. If you already have a table which shows either zip codes or counties or states and the respective territories that those should go into, you can choose from my territory table to give yourself a starting point. So I do have that, so I'll choose from my territory table. And it is my regions.xlsx here. So on this next step, we want to choose from the geography layer and geography field dropdowns which type of geography we want to use to create the territories. So my territories are built out of zip codes, so I'm going to choose zip codes here. So I'll leave these both alone. The territory field is the name of the territory, the name of the field in your Excel sheet which contains your territory names. So mine is called territory, so I'll leave that as is. And then my geography field is the name of the field that contains my geography values. So in this case, my zip codes. Usually Maptitude is pretty good about getting all these correct on the without you having to do anything. So usually default settings are okay here. We can just hit next. And in this case, that's true as well. We can also add a tracking field, and that can either be from a territory table. So if you have data in the same table as the geography and the territory names, you can choose import territory table fields. If you have data in another file that you want to add while you're creating territories, you can choose import fields from a file. Or if you want to add demographic fields like population, income, anything like that, you can choose add geography layer fields. Just so we can see what it's like to track a field, I'm going to choose add geography fields, and I will choose population. And I'll hit finish. So it's going to import my assignments. We have a region 1 and a region 2 here. I won't spend too much time on the territory manager because we have quite a few webinars and tutorial videos dedicated to this topic exclusively. So if you'd like to check that out, I would recommend under the help menu choosing video tutorials here. But I will briefly go over how to use it to, move area between territories. So let's zoom in here to an area where the territories are touching. The first dropdown controls what territory you're currently adding to. So let's say I wanted to add this part of region 2 to region 1. I'll choose region 1. Select lets us pick what types of areas we are currently allowed to select. So if I'm taking area from region 2, I'm going to choose any area and prevent overlapping territories. Empty areas will only let us pick areas that are unassigned, and any area and allow overlapping territories would let us pick areas from region 2, but if we were to reassign, it would just make the territories overlap, and I want to move from one to the other. So I'll choose any area and prevent. And our geography controls what types of areas we're currently adding. So in my case, this is zip codes. To select an area, we're going to choose select by pointing. You can also click on this dropdown and choose from a number of other selection methods. So if you want to box in a number of zip codes using a rectangle, a circle, or select by shape, you can. I'll actually use select by shape here. Again, click once to start drawing. Click again to add a corner. And we'll box in this whole area. So we'll see all of those areas get highlighted in red, and we can click on the green check mark to reassign those areas to region 1. We can also use other options in the geography dropdown to add larger areas. So if I wanted to add the entire state of Wisconsin, I could choose state, change this to select by pointing, and just click on Wisconsin. It's going to take a second to select all of the zip codes in Wisconsin that are currently unassigned. And once that's done, I can hit the check mark, and it's going to assign all of Wisconsin to region 1. So this is the last segment of today's webinar. If anyone has any questions, feel free to send those over now, and I can take a few minutes to answer them.